Hey, I am so excited to have you listen to this very special episode where I interview my mama. If you're listening to this episode wherever you listen to podcasts, but you want to actually watch the interview, it is a video episode. So I want to encourage you to go over to the YouTube channel and check that out. If you need the link there, look in the descriptions of this podcast. Go to the website, TSWJourneyToHealing.com, and click on podcast, and you'll see the link to get to access it on YouTube there. But really quick, I am so proud of this journal. I've gotten such great feedback from those of you that are excited, that have purchased it already. I know it's going to be tremendously helpful for you. And if you want to know more, you can go right to TSWJourneyToHealing.com/journal, or you can go to the website and you'll see lots of buttons and pop-ups and things that'll get you where you need to go. But this journal, inside this journal, there is calendars, there's resources, there's a free gift for you, for those of you that do purchase it, and a joy list, gratitude prompts, visualization techniques, intentions, affirmations, mini mental health exams, and lots of things that are specific just to us in the TSW community. This journal was designed with you in particular in mind to help you continue to heal and not just dread this process, which this journey can be a long, arduous, painful, excruciating one. But it really will help you mentally, physically, emotionally through this journey to your healing. And I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited about it. So please continue to check the page. Right now, there's going to be a video on there. If you're listening to this episode and it's in the future, I'm sure the page will be updated, all beautiful. But for right now, I just had something out there to get your information and then send you where you need to go to purchase it. And I'm just really grateful for every single one of you. So without further ado, let's hop into this very special episode with me and my mama, so you can hear all about her experience having a daughter with childhood eczema and then later TSW. You've been seeking answers from every dermatologist, doctor, and all over the internet, wondering what on earth this unbearable skin issue is. You know something's up, and you've been suffering and silenced for far too long. This podcast is going to bring awareness to the brutal reality that is topical steroid addiction and withdrawal syndrome. It will give you practical mental and physical tips to help you along your journey and provide you the strength you need to push through each day. You'll hear from real people battling this illness, as well as experts in the field, and I'm also going to share with you what's happening as I battle and conquer TSW. You are not alone, you're not crazy, and you will heal. If there's one thing I know, it's that anyone going through this hell is a warrior. My name is Jennifer Powers, and I welcome you to TSW Journey to Healing. Okay, this is a very special episode that I'm very excited about, where I've been talking about. If you've been listening to the show for a while, then you know that I've been saying, one of these times I'm going to have my mom come on to talk about my childhood and my journey with eczema, and then where I'm at now with TSW. So we're here. This is my mom, Linda Powers. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to give some comments. If you're listening to this, make sure that you like, subscribe, leave feedback, give a shout out. And so we're just going to have a good conversation. And if you're a caretaker, so you are looking after a child, an older child, a younger child, whatever, you might relate to a lot of this. If you are somebody dealing with eczema or TSW yourself, you're also going to relate to this, because I'm sure she's got all of the notes here and a whole list of all the medications and the journey that it's been like. So you'll get to hear, you've been hearing from me how it's been for me from my point of view as the person going through it. But now you're also going to hear what it was like to be a parent and dealing with all of these appointments and unknown things and all that. So I'm glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes. So I'm going to just let you start and just say, we should start probably from the beginning, and like how old was I when we went, or what made you think that I had to go to the dermatologist? Like, what was my skin having rashes? Like, let's just go right to the beginning of when I was like a little kid and tell them, I guess, how it started.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank Jennifer for having me on. And I wanted to do like a timeline, write everything down from the beginning, because it really has been a heck of a journey. As a mother who obsesses about the health and happiness of her children, this is hard for me because I'm watching my daughter suffer and I can't really help her by curing her. So in the beginning, at age 2, I took Jennifer to her pediatrician. They told me to have her wear mittens or gloves to bed. She was scratching so much that in the morning I'd see blood on the sheets and cuts on the inside of her arms. I felt so bad and wanted to help her so much that I got the name of an excellent dermatologist from our pediatrician, who was very well known in our area, known to be the best. The very first visit, the dermatologist prescribed steroids. There was no other option. She had eczema. Never did he say anything that she would outgrow it by just using Vaseline or Aquaphor. He said she needs steroids for the relief. So we used Elicon, Elidel, hydrocortisone, prednisone. I'm trying to remember more, and I believe we also gave Jennifer methylprednisone and mometasone. The most upsetting thing for me is that I trusted our pediatrician and our dermatologist. How awful is it that neither told me just to try nothing or plain old over-the-counter Vaseline? And the one thing I remember is that one day I was at the pharmacy and saw a black label warning on the box of Elidel and Elicon. I walked up to the pharmacist and he told me that it was being taken off the market. I told him that my young daughter is using this and he said, throw it away. I then called the dermatologist and screamed at that office because they did not even look at their patients' records to alert them to this. I found it out on my own, so I never went back to that office. Even though I did not go to that particular office, I searched out other dermatologists, and they were all the same. When Jennifer was in elementary school, she had many flare-ups, and we treated them with the steroid creams we thought to be safe. But middle school was awful for Jennifer. It's an awkward age to begin with, and it's even worse when teenagers are always obsessing with their looks. When it came time for high school and dances and proms, that was really hard. You see, the creams that we used had side effects, which were not told to us. Once again, I went back to my friendly pharmacist, who at this point told me way more than my doctors. I brought Jennifer to him and showed him her white patches on the inside of her arms. He said, oh, yes, that's a side effect. I was horrified. I wasn't told. I wouldn't have used it. It left Jennifer with a chalky white skin, noticeably different than the rest of her arm. So I researched a skin specialist who helps people to camouflage their skin. We were given a cream that would blend in and cover up the white parts. She had to be careful that it would not rub off. I had to teach her how to carry her shrug or sweater, not to carry it in the curve of her arm, but below. And this is how she went to the prom, conscious of the cream not rubbing off. I was also told by the pharmacist, not the doctor, that her skin could become thin from too much use of the creams. What do you do? Itch or have thin skin? What a choice. So at this point, we're going to college. The stress of a roommate who you never met, new surroundings, possible new allergic reactions, all of that. Jennifer's skin again was bad. We decided to buy her a car so she could go twice a week to a light therapy center, which we were told would help her. In addition to that, she would go tanning. We were so frustrated with not being able to help her more that we researched and found a company called Virology. We took Jennifer there and they formulated liquid drops that she would place under her tongue every day. This could calm down her allergies and the eczema. It would actually be in place of allergy shots. This would be more easy to do being a college student, so we put the vials in her dorm refrigerator. This cost about $600 for a few vials. Being a college student, we found out at one of our visits to her, she wasn't using them consistently. They were in the refrigerator. Conclusion is nothing really worked. The frustrating part of all this is that when she was 2, if we just used Aquaphor or Vaseline, she could have outgrown this. But I believe the use of steroids prolonged her agony rather than helping her. Now, the worst thing that could have happened has happened. The steroids are what her body wants, but the eczema gets worse. This past year has been one for the books. She's gone to 7 doctors, and no one really has had answers. 3 times to urgent care, 2 times to the hospital. I'm so very proud of my daughter for going on this journey. She's got a strong support system, but it's a really lonely, hard journey because no one knows what someone has to go through until you walk in their shoes. I pray every day that this withdrawal is coming to an end. I know Jennifer's going to help others with this condition, so I hope many people are listening and learning. I wish we knew years ago what we know now, and I thank Jennifer so much from the bottom of my heart. I know she's going to be fine, but I can't.
Aw,
but as a mom, there's not much I can do, and it's heartbreaking.
Well, this is how different we are because you are so prepared And I normally am not.
I had boxes. I had shoe boxes with the creams and papers stapled into it to tell me each one when to use it, how to use it. And it still didn't matter. It didn't matter.
I think, okay, so that was like a really good synopsis. It really paints a good picture. When I was young, because my memory is not going to go back to that, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Was it really, did it really change the quality of my life, or is something I just kind of was used to doing? Like scratching was just a part of what I just do.
Kids, I think, they want to run and play. So they're itching and they're not realizing that, wow, you're really scratching your skin. It's starting to rip the skin and they just want to run and play. A couple times, you looked agitated, especially at night, you would be itchy. But when you're really, really young, I don't think you think about really what's happening to your body. As you get older, especially the teenage years, it's so tough because you're conscious of
but then wasn't there like years where I didn't have any issue?
A couple years in elementary school, I would say like 3rd grade to like 6th grade, it was really calm. So that was wonderful.
Yeah.
But then the middle school years, it started up again.
So like puberty hits, it starts.
Yes.
Then high school, I remember one thing we didn't say was like, I did find some relief. I went to, which is, not necessarily a good thing, but I went tanning to artificial tanning booths, which made me feel really hot because I like to be tan, and it did help. But then you run the risk of skin cancer and all of that, all that nonsense. But I also remember, so my mom worked in my high school and we had uniforms. It was an all-girls school. And we had sweaters, like cardigans. And in the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year in the United States here, it's warm because summer just ended and then summer's about to start before you're done school. So most of the girls I went to school with would go with their polo shirts with short sleeves.
Which that was the summer uniform.
That was the summer uniform. And I never did because I was I guess I was embarrassed to show the insides of my elbows. Knowing what I looked like for the last year, if I only knew that it could end up looking like this, that is something that's hilarious to look back and think I was just I was self-conscious about that. Just like I'm sure some people are self-conscious about acne or about this thing or that thing. And it's like, when things can get so much worse, then you're like, I wish I didn't even pay any attention to that. But, so that was kind of like childhood and stuff. And of course, like you're dating, you're breaking up, you're getting together, like there's all just life. You're trying to graduate college, you get a job. There's like all the stress, which obviously is a huge trigger for eczema, which, that happened. Then I don't know if you remember on my honeymoon.
I do remember that vividly.
I called you first. Then I called my dermatologist at home. I went to Hawaii for my honeymoon and my whole skin felt like snake skin. They were saying changing of, maybe it was the change of the climate or the stress of the wedding that just passed or whatever. And, I got prednisone then.
Yes.
And prednisone is the last drug that I took, which put me into withdrawal. And that started in September 2021. I'm sorry. So that's not the last drug. I took that put me into withdrawal. I still tried a topical a couple times after that. And there are a lot of other topicals that you did list there.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more. But Elidel and Elicon are always, they always are. I can see the tube in front of me. I picture it. That was like a go-to. And I slathered that anywhere, my face, my neck, wherever. So now here's what I want to talk about. So I remember going into TSW and 2 summers ago, so 2 years ago, I believe my body was going through the withdrawal because we were at our family beach house. And I remember touching my neck one morning and it was soaking wet, which I now come to know is the ooze stage of this. The year that was probably last 2 summers ago, the one before that, I remember having a huge bright red neck. My whole neck was solid, inflamed, bright red to the point where I left we were. I drove an hour and a half back home to the dermatologist. They had no idea. He said, maybe it's a lupus rash. He had no idea. So of course I get my ANA levels checked for autoimmune, which a lot of us know they're kind of a faulty test. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative, and they really have a hard time figuring all that out. So it's been ridiculous. When I told you, I don't know if you remember this, but when I told you like, hey, this is what I think this is, do you remember if you were like, what your reaction was to that?
Well, my reaction, I was extremely upset, to say the least, because I know that I gave you so many steroids because, again, back in the day, you're like, okay, I want my child to not feel pain and to heal. And as I said earlier, the dermatologist and the doctor, I won't name their names, but they were supposedly the best in this area. Everyone tried to get in their office. So I thought I was getting top-notch information. So when you told me this was all from the prolonged use over the years, it infuriated me because here you're thinking you're doing the right thing, and now it's all backfiring. It made me furious and heartbroken because of what the journey ahead now. You're saying this could take quite a while to heal, and then there's really nothing we can do. So me, I have a hard head. I keep saying, let's try another doctor. Let's try another doctor. And you're right. You're saying, but this is how I got here. But I guess I keep thinking, isn't there someone that could help? Is there some miracle thing that could just speed up the process so you don't suffer as long?
Yeah. But when I first told you, like, you can become addicted, when I figured out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just learned that you can be addicted. It's a drug addict, like a drug withdrawal. You can be addicted to a medication. Was that like hard to believe? Or was that like, oh,
well, it was like a light bulb went off, because actually I was like, oh my God, first of all, I didn't think that would happen with like prednisone, say, but then in thinking more and more on it, I'm thinking, well, that makes sense, because even I suffered with sinus headaches my whole life. I would run to get the extra strength Tylenol or the Excedrin to stop it. So it's almost like, not that I was addicted, but I didn't wait long. And I'm like, I got to get that. Mm-hmm. Like I could see how, and how your body gets used to it too. Mm-hmm. So, but it upset me because you're addicted. So now how do you wean off, and what happens during weaning off?
I remember like learning about it and then hearing like Dr. Rappaport, the one doctor in California, and the other people saying that from what they've seen, like heroin addicts or other kinds of drugs have it easier than topical steroid addicts and withdrawals. So it was really, really scary. What was it like for you, if you remember? So this started December 2021. Officially. I mean, it was really like since September, when the prednisone stopped working, that we were like, oh, something's wrong, something's up. So it was really the fall, but officially figured out what it was, cold turkey off of all steroids, end of November. Obviously I had COVID with Dad.
Yes.
And that was really rough. That might have made kick things into quicker gear. We'll never know that. But what was it like for you for the first like couple months watching me? Because so you guys know, like we live 5 minutes away from each other, very close knit family. So it's not like we go months without seeing each other. It's like we're together every single week. Right. So what was that like?
So first of all, I knew something was dreadfully wrong all summer, because you were not right. I was like, something is wrong. I just kept thinking over and over, what is it? What is it? You're a grown woman. I can't drag you to every single doctor that I want to go to. But I knew something was wrong. And then your father and I were in Key Largo in November. You called first to tell me something, and I knew in your voice something was wrong. And then you proceeded to tell me you're having a really bad weekend. That was the weekend, I believe you had COVID, but you weren't tested yet. But you were totally not yourself. Came home and I saw a drastic change. You were a mess. And then you tell me what the diagnosis is. Well, to be honest with you, every day I left here, I went home and I cried because I didn't know what to do. It's very hard for a mother to watch your child suffer, and there is like literally nothing you can do. I can't put a cream on you because it would burn. I can't give you a pill. I can't give you anything to take it away. And you're telling me now that it's going to go on and on and on. And I'm like, I would go home and say, what do we do? Like to her father, like, what do we do? I have no clue what to do. And it's the most helpless, frustrating thing you can ever do. And you have to put a happy face on because of her little boy, like you want to try to keep things normal for him, but on the inside you're dying because you're like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So it's crushing. We're a very close family. Jennifer's aunts and uncles that adore her, her grandmother, everybody was affected. Everybody was crying. Everybody was upset. When I would go over to a family dinner and Jennifer would stay home because maybe she wasn't feeling up to it that night to go, everybody would say, how is she? And everybody would start crying because no one knew what to do. It's the most frustrating thing.
That's important, because a lot of people that I talk to and have interviews, and they're like, I think sometimes we forget that it really does affect every single person that knows us more than we realize, and more than we can ever really see, because everyone tries to have a brave face around you to show you, like, so that you can be the one to be weak and they can be strong. But then as soon as you're not with them, so it's just, yeah. And knowing that also gives the victim, the person who's suffering, it gives them a sense of guilt for making their family and friends feel sad, which there's no way of getting around that. So you shouldn't feel like that, but it is a part of the trauma of the whole situation. So that's not good. So during, I remember December, January, February, those first 3 or 4 months were so bad. And if anyone's listening to this that is in the beginning of it, or whatever stage you're in, years in, and you've had like suicidal or really, really bad thoughts, I know a few people I've interviewed, without naming the names, you listen to the episodes, you'll hear it. You can have these thoughts. I certainly did. And what makes this journey even more lonely is that if you're blessed to have a therapist and you talk to a therapist, that's great, super healthy. But if you don't, or even if you do, if you're close with a friend or you're close with a family member and you just want to tell them the truth, like, I'm having really bad thoughts, sometimes you tend to hold them back because you want to protect the other person. And it's really not okay to do that. You really need to say it. You need to talk about it. Because I remember like one night, just like laying on my couch, towels on the couch, 17 ice packs on, like every symptom happening all at the same time, feeling like literally out of my mind, out of my body, like not even a human, and just being like, something's got to end this right now. Like, I don't care what it is. And it's bad. It's scary. So that's why it's important to have a support system to lean on. But I also want to talk about like the doctors that you go to,
but back up with the support system. This is totally not about your grandmother, me, your father, whatever. This is not about us. But one thing everybody should know is that growing up in an all Italian family, to this day, your grandmother still keeps things from me, like doesn't want to worry us. In a way, it's bad. It rubbed off on me. And sometimes I'll put up a show like, okay, well, it's going to get better. And you kind of like push it aside a little bit. But my regret is that December, January, February, when it was your worst, you should have probably moved in with me. I should have moved in here.
Should have, would have, could have.
But, I was thinking, well, I got to be on my A game during the day in case you need me for your son. And if I'm up all night, but that's besides the point. I honestly think that if I turn back the clock, maybe we could have done more those awful 3 months. And that eats away at me a lot. And I feel like, what could we have done to help it along the way better?
The only thing anybody could have done, and the only thing that would have done, being physically in the same space, is just to know that there's another adult around. So if for me, I am divorced. I have my son. I am in a relationship, but unfortunately, due to jobs and circumstances, they're not able to be living with me. And, but regardless of that, like if you are alone, because there's plenty of people, all different ages, babies, teenagers, people that are on their own, that aren't close, maybe they don't have any support system. It's just the fact of knowing that somebody is there a phone call away, or physically can run over, or if you can live with somebody, if you're able to move back in with family, if you need to do that, you just have to do whatever you have to do to be comfortable, to stay sane and deal with it. I think the hardest part for a parent, like I'm a parent, to hear that the average heal time, according to the Dr. Rappaport, is 3 to 5 years. And that seems like it's a blip in the pond of life, but it's a very long time when you're in it. And it's hard to accept. So I feel like both of us and everybody needs to, it's going to be hard, but forgive the doctors for doing what they thought was best, but actually causing a lot of these issues. But what would you say, what's been the hardest thing to see, or for you just like knowing about this, like
that it has totally disrupted your whole life. Eczema has been a part of your life since you were 2, but this has taken it to a whole different level. And I feel like this is the time in your life when you met a great guy, you have a great son. It should be fun. It should be happy times. It shouldn't be about you wrapping up in gauze. It shouldn't be about pain and oozing and everything. You're going through so much right now. And I feel like, and it's long, you're coming up to your year. Like, that's the hardest thing. I'm like, when is it going to completely leave you? When? And no one has a crystal ball, but it's like, I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. I want to move it along quicker for you. And the frustrating part is that, like, as a mom, I can't do anything to take it away from you. It's just horrible. You know, it's not like you break a bone and I can help you with exercise. It's physical therapy. You can't do anything with this. I don't know what else to do.
You can't do anything. You just have to like be there and listen
part.
But that's, yeah, I know. So what would you say? I'm trying to think of a good like question to like, what if someone else is in a similar situation and they're a mom, and whether it's a young child, an older child, whatever, like what advice would you give, I guess?
Oh my God. Well, any mother,
kind of already gave
any
some
mother
advice.
that cannot do anything to help your child, that's a horrible thing to go through. You can't help your child. You can't fix it. Okay. So the advice would be to just be there every day and just say, what can I do today? What do you need? You know, can I pick up cash? Can I bring dinner? What can I do? I mean, even though it's not going to physically take the pain away, but there's other things in your daily life. Like, what can you do just to be there? You know,
I learned from somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody, like when I was talking to them about like a situation, I can't remember what the situation was, but it was something that normally a person would just want to fix it for someone that they love and care about. And this person was like, no, I didn't say, well, how do I fix this for you? I said, how can I support you? When you change the question to being like, it's not my job, or I'm not physically able to fix this and I'm not going to fix this, but how do I show my support? I think that's the better question, because we don't have the answers for this yet. Hopefully down the road we will. But it is help when you say there's nothing you can do to help, but there is. So you just, I love you. I'm here for you. What can I do? If I can do something small, let me know what that is. Like, those are the best things to do. I do want to bring up, I just remembered, and I recommend everybody watch this. She is on, I don't think her episode came out yet. When it does, make sure you like it big time. Her name is Brianna. She is the creator of the documentary Preventable. And that's something that like I literally will never forget, because I watched bits and pieces and then I stopped myself and thought, you know what? I have been explaining this to my mom and dad for months. And it's really hard because, like you said, if you're not in that person's shoes and you're not in their body, you don't know what it's like. And also sometimes, you know, like, especially like I remember being a teenage girl, like, you know, your mom could tell you all the things and then your best friend or your aunt or somebody else will tell you, and it clicks differently. So sometimes the people closest to us don't want to hear advice or opinions, or it's just like, it doesn't connect. So when you can hear it from somebody else, sometimes it hits different. So I remember it was August, and I said, would you guys please both watch this with me on the couch? And she did a phenomenal job of this documentary. Absolutely incredible. She's a wonderful person. I've gotten to like know her a bit, and she's wonderful. So shout out Brianna Vanos. And I will link that in the show notes if you want to check it out. Definitely show your support. But it was really helpful because it wasn't, I can't remember how long it was. I think maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I don't remember. But I didn't know how it was going to go, and I didn't even watch the whole thing. So I didn't really know what to expect. And I sat on the couch, and I just remember my dad's this, 60-something-year-old Irish man, typical guy that doesn't show lots of mushy gushy emotions and stuff. My mom, different, Italian, woman,
Yeah.
emotional, whatever. And my son was in the room, but he was on his like Nintendo Switch or something. And so wasn't really paying attention, but I didn't want to shield him too much from the world and what was my reality. So, whether that was good or not, I don't know, but we're all watching on the TV, and it was probably like 20, 30 minutes in, and you literally, well, first of all, before you got up, I kept looking over, and my mom, the couch was like shaking, because I'm like, oh God, she's like crying a lot. I feel bad, but I'm glad I feel like she's getting it, and it's like making a lot more sense. And then you stood up and you walked away, and I got mad for a minute, because I was like, I need you to sit down and watch this, because I really want you to and you said, like crying, you were like yelling at, like, I did this to you. I don't want to watch this, which I reassured you, obviously you did not, but I can understand as a mom why you would like feel that and have that kind of guilt, even though it's totally not yours to have. But what was it like? Because then you ended up sitting on the steps and watching it. What was that like to watch something like that?
It was, well, first of all, it was very well done. She explained so much, and it was important to watch. It's important for every family to watch that's going through it. I feel like she explained everything, her whole journey, like you're doing, but
well, it was all those other people's stories,
and it was other people, and it just is heartbreaking because so many people are going through it. But yeah, I did feel responsible. I do, because, like it really all me, because when you were little, your father was working like 60 hours a week. I was primarily taking you to the doctors and doing all these different things, and, I would just say, oh, we went to the pediatrician today and this is what they said. And he would say, oh, okay. Like just put everything, the faith in me. So I thought, okay.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Like, he really didn't say, well, maybe we should do something else, because, like you're a young family, you're trying to make ends meet and you're working hours like crazy. So I'm thinking, okay, I trust this doctor. So then you look at this, Brianna, and you're like, why was I so trusting? Why did I do that? Like, why? And it's like, I have so much pain and guilt, because it's just, if I did nothing, this wouldn't be happening today. So it's really heart-wrenching.
There was a couple times I remember over the last like 4 months or so that when I was just like really low. I remember, well, one part of that documentary real quick was beautiful girl, blonde curly hair. I don't remember her name. She said she was with somebody in a wonderful relationship for 7 years, and she ended up saying, I had to let him go. Like it was just got too hard. And it just seemed like a life sentence. And like, it was just, she felt like she was kind of making his life like worse, because it was so difficult, like caring for her and, all that. And they do say in the documentary also that like the percentage of relationships that end because the caretaker just like can't do it anymore, which sounds really, really bad. And I agree, like, really you love somebody, you're there for them, period, end of story. But it is challenging. And my boyfriend is wonderful, but I see how this impacts my son, my parents, my family, absolutely him. And it is so sad. So I remember calling or just being down the shore and like talking to you and being like, I should just let him go. I should break up with him, because I feel so bad that the quality of my life has changed so much, and it's not the same person as the person he met. And that is like serious guilt that I still deal with. But there was a lot of times and things that I think I would call you and say like, make it stop. Like I need it to stop. And it was just like so heartbreaking to like even hear myself feel like that. So one of the things too, I don't know, and you can be so brutally honest here. Do you notice that my mood and my personality definitely like they have changed since going through this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're extremely spiritual. You're extremely patient. Well, let's face
That's
it.
brand new though. I was never ever
but
patient.
This is the thing. I don't like, if I was going through this and it's 11 months, I would handle it so different from you. I would not have the grace and the courage. I know I wouldn't. So that's why.
Well, you don't know that. You didn't go through it, but
I feel like it, in a way, like, all these drugs that they advertise on TV, and you see more and more, which is
I was just gonna, that was my next question.
It's so bizarre that now at this particular time, when you're going through it, all you see on TV is steroid free this, steroid free that, eczema,
That's
asthma,
good news.
all this.
They're making headway.
It is good news, but it's kind of strange too that at the same time, like, it's happening now. And then we go yesterday or the day before to a doctor and they recommend that drug. And then you find out you have to be on it for the rest of your life, which shocked me. I just feel like there's, hopefully something else out there, which you are trying. So
yeah, but I noticed like my mood, like I'm a very like optimistic, happy person, like life is good, that kind of thing. And
and then this happened.
So when it first happened, like the depression was so real that, and you notice it when you're like, I don't feel the need to leave my house. I don't want to like do anything. I don't want to see anyone. I don't really have anything good to say. So I don't want to, and also like with my son, like, because you're not sleeping, because you're uncomfortable, like snapping, so not patient in the beginning at all, still deal with that. But, it's just like your whole personality like changes.
Oh, your personality definitely changed, because you could see, especially like saying at the shore in the summers, like you would be like so bubbly and excited and to do things and everything. And then last summer was like everything was a struggle. Like you pushed yourself, to do it for others, like, well, I got to get myself together because they want to go out or they want to do something. But clearly everything is harder. Everything is a struggle. And I'm sure you just want to crawl in a ball.
Sometimes.
But before that, your bubbly, very vivacious personality was there. And now it's like taking a back seat.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we left out. I feel like this will be one of a few interviews with you, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of things that will come up, lots of childhood things. I do remember going back to what you said in the beginning about the makeup, which was the camouflaging makeup. And just like that whole period of time in high school when you just want to like fit in and you want to like look good. And this is, again, before TSW. So this is just all eczema talking, but like just what happens when you have a skin disease or a skin issue, and how much that really like is life-changing. And people, and it's not this, I think something that like has bothered me is that people will take things like cancer so seriously. They'll take things like diabetes or, I don't even know. I can't think of any like serious, like kidney failure, this thing, that thing, whatever. They'll take these other things so seriously. And when they think of eczema, not even TSW, just eczema or something like psoriasis or a rash, they don't take it seriously. And yet it is so debilitating and so crippling as far as like your self-confidence and who you are and show up as a person. And it can cause issues like anxiety and depression and all these other kinds of things.
You're 100% right, because I have a very dear brother who said, it almost would be better. Like he said, if it were me, I think he said, I'd rather have cancer than what Jennifer's going through, because they have a certain regimen and they're going to fix you. They know what to do. They're going to fix you. They're going to get rid of it and move on. He goes, they don't know what to do for her. And he goes, that's the most frustrating thing of all. Then they're really not, doesn't even look like they're trying that hard, because they're like, well, take that drug. That's all we can give you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like there's nothing else. And it goes on and on and on. And
I do have hope for the future. I had a conversation. That's why I look like, if you're watching this, obviously I did not put myself together presentable for this, but also I'm keeping it real. So that's fine. But I came from the sauna place that I have been a member of now for quite some time. So I'm doing red light therapy, infrared sauna, and cryotherapy. And the younger boy, probably in his early 20s, who was doing the cryotherapy machine for me, we had a good conversation. And I said, about medicine and how, yes, there's a place for it. And yes, doctors are crazy important when you need a surgery or you break a bone or you have something that you need to go in and out for, or something like cancer, things like that. But with this, which is still so unknown and not dissected enough, not researched enough. He was just like, yeah, I think the world is doing a shift. It's just not going as fast as we want it to, where things like plant medicine or not medical like drugs with all the side effects, but more natural things. Like you could treat anxiety or depression with a sauna instead of a pill that alters your state of mind, or this thing or that thing. So this episode and this whole show is not here to knock traditional medicine or doctors. There's a place for them. There's a purpose for them. You got to do what you got to do for you. But yesterday even, or the couple of days ago, the appointment that we went to, typically doctors are just like not understanding you. You want to find a doctor that just respects your point of view, which can be hard because they just want to ask you, well, why would you choose to suffer? And it's not, no one's choosing to suffer. I think that was my frustration, to be honest, with in the beginning, or even throughout, with family. Family means the best, and they want you, like both you guys want me to feel good and speed up and feel better. But it's hard to when you're two different people that have totally different outlooks on life. You just have to respect one another's differences. And I think for me, that was difficult because we all want the same outcome. We want the healing for me and to be done with this. That's what we all want. So we were on the same page, but the way to get there can be different. So, when it comes to things like vaccines or pills or whatever kind of medication or anything, I have a different train of thought sometimes, not all the time, than you or than my dad or than my brother or whatever it is. So it's just a matter of like, we're all just trying to do our best and figure out what makes the most sense. And
well, you're right, because you would think I would have learned my lesson, because all I keep thinking of is, well, maybe they could give you something to speed it up or get rid of it. Well, that's what's got us here in the first place, because I listened to them and I was like, okay, that cream's going to help her. Great. And it did, but at what cost? So yes, there's all these pills and injections out, but we don't know what's going to happen 5 or 10 years after when you're on that. So I am proud of you. I am so impressed that you are willing to do it a more natural way, and hopefully, and we'll get the same results. If it takes longer and we have the patients, that would be great.
I think it would have been really helpful if all those years, all those doctors, dermatologists would have said, hey, you can't be on this more than 2 weeks.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
and so it's not necessarily like, yes, are steroids bad? I don't know the answer to that. I know for me, I'm terrified of them and I will never touch one or ingest one ever again. Not over the counter cortisone, not an inhaler, I don't know. I'll have to figure some other way because I will never ever touch it. But I don't know if I would have felt that much fear and maybe this wouldn't even be happening in my reality if somebody just cared a little bit enough to say, this is not a solution. We can make quick comfort, but we have to really figure out the root cause of this. We have to figure out like what the eczema, and that's, I think my biggest hope is that these doctors can all kind of talk together, whether it's a dermatologist, primary care physician, a naturopath doctor, a homeopathic doctor, whatever, to come to be more of a team for that individual, that patient. So anything else you want to add that we forgot, like any memories or experiences or stories? I know, again, we can do another episode about it some other time, but I can't think of another question that I really, I'm trying to think of like childhood and like,
Well, I just remember a vivid memory of you walking from the blanket of the beach to the ocean, and you'd see in the back of the knees these 2 square white, perfectly square. That's how I applied the cream, I guess. White spots. And
do we have pictures of that? I would like to put that on the blog if we have find pictures of that. I probably
could find that. Yeah. And it was interesting because they were here and they were the back of the knees. And as you walk to the ocean, I saw that and it just stuck with me like, okay, that's part of what, you're dealing with right now. But at that point you get the white patch, but you weren't itching. But then
if only it could have just been
right. But then it came back. Right. And as you said, you're right. You look at, how vain kids are when they're teenagers. And you say, like, looking back, like, well, that was nothing, but yes, all those different bits of time, and now it led us to now. So now I'm just hoping to detox everything and start fresh with no steroids and no
one ever told you. So like your dad had psoriasis, but nobody else that we know of, I don't think, in the either side of the family had skin conditions, obviously other health issues, but no real skin conditions. So nobody ever thought to ask, like, well, how come she has eczema? Why did she get this? How did she get this? Like and there might be no way of ever really knowing that.
Well, but one doctor said that when you were playing soccer, you were out of breath a lot. So we went and you had sport-induced asthma. And they said that went hand in hand with eczema.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm like, oh, well, she has the eczema because she's slightly asthmatic. Well, I don't know. But your grandfather, I remember as a little girl, him sitting in a chair, and they had a red bright light over his head. And my mother would put cream in his scalp because of the psoriasis. But then in time, it went away.
Was it a steroid cream?
That I don't know.
Should ask her and see if she finds out.
Yeah.
Or she remembers. But she's almost 100 years old, so I don't know if she'll remember.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes I think medicine, it's come such a long way, but it's hurt us more than it has helped us in some ways. Just trying to fix things so fast instead of just getting to like moving a little slower, doing things a little bit from a different holistic approach.
Oh, absolutely. Because I've been prescribed myself many, many antibiotics and things so quickly without even going to the doctors, that now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got things like so easily and I shouldn't have. And that's.
Yeah, I think I have to deal with now major PTSD. So you have to be careful if you are somebody going through TSW that you don't take it to the extreme, which is that you have such PTSD about this that like now I'm not scared of going to the doctor. I'm scared of anything that doctor, I'm questioning how much is true about what that doctor is going to recommend. Right. Not only that, like any kind of medication for anything, I don't want to be on it because I
can't blame
don't know what's going to happen afterwards. So it's something that's a trauma response. And that's something, again, you got to like work through because you can't be afraid of like living your life or taking a medicine if you need it or whatever. But I know that's something that I've been super thick-headed and coming from a good place, but also, my parents are in their 60s and obviously people start to get health concerns and issues as you get older, like we all will, but I'm like so outspoken and say, well, instead of that, you could try this or you could try that. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to everyone's got to do whatever you got to do that you believe in and respect everybody else's choices. And
no, but it really has opened my eyes because even if I would have like a mosquito bite or something and I would put hydrocortisone cream on, I would like slather it on and you're like, there's a little bit of steroids in that. And I had no idea. I had no idea.
My boyfriend uses, which don't ever use it, but Afrin, the nasal spray, it's really steroid in that. The inhaler that I had as an 8-year-old kid with sport-induced asthma, that was a steroid. Hemorrhoid cream, if you ever get hemorrhoids, there's a steroid in that. Over the counter stuff. There's so much stuff and you don't know. And you don't know. Like you might see like the packaging and say itch cream.
Right.
It's like to the point where I remember thinking lidocaine, which is a numbing cream. I thought, and I'm very good friends with the scientific formulator of a lot of holistic products. I remember being at the CVS, which if you're not familiar, if you're not in the States, it's like a drugstore. And I was like, oh, lidocaine. Some people in the Facebook group were saying, oh, that could help because it numbs you out. And I was desperate. And I remember asking him and he was like, there was a couple different kinds of it. He said, double, triple check in the pharmacist because it could be hidden in there. You might not, it doesn't have to say steroid on it. It won't. And there's just, it contains, you have to know what words to look for in the back of the box, the ingredients, when there's a percentage of a certain kind of word, that means a steroid. So better safe than sorry, which leads people to, I'm not going to do anything. And that makes people that you're around, family, being like, you're not going to do anything. What are you doing for it? You're not doing anything. You got to do something. You got to help yourself. And it's like, you don't know.
That's why I don't understand why these things are so easily to get in the drugstore if it has ingredients that are really stronger than you think.
Yeah.
That is surprising to me. So,
and the doctors are slowly, more and more we're hearing with the last couple of appointments, some of the doctors like, oh, I've heard of that. I've seen it on TikTok, or, oh, I've heard of it. And most of the time they're kind of not rolling their eyes, but kind of like, well, what makes you think you have that? Or and not necessarily because they don't believe in it. Maybe they just don't know enough about it and they can't say, oh, yes, that's real, because they don't know enough about it, which they should, but they don't.
Or maybe it's really good doctors, maybe it's guilt, like, wow, I'm prescribing that too much.
Yes.
I wasn't told.
Yes.
We should have a conference on this. We should talk about this because we're hurting people.
And nobody needs to feel guilty about it. People just need to be committed to finding an answer so that they can change going forward. So that's my mission. Absolutely. That's what I want to have happen. So I think we'll have to probably do, I'm sure there's going to be things that pop up and pictures that are going to make me think of other stories. So we'll do it again.
And I hope a lot of young women and young dads watch this too, because for like babies, oh my God, like if I had to turn the clock back, you're 2 years old, Vaseline, Aquaphor, maybe even a baking soda bath.
Changing your diet. Like there's so many other things, right? Like you try something that's safe, not medicated. You try to stay comfortable. You try to look at the gut microbiome. You try to look at diet. Like for all I knew, milk was flaring me up. Now, of course, I'm a huge fan of like raw dairy. So, and I don't know, is it helping me? Is it hurting me? I don't know. I believe in it. I believe it's very good for regular people. I don't know if somebody like me, but we're finding it out. I'm figuring it out along the way. Right. Point is, if you have a skin reaction of any kind, it's usually a sign that inside there's some inflammation going on. You just need to figure out what is causing that. So that's what's really exhausting, to think about what's your trigger, what's causing it. But that's your duty. Like that's your job. Instead of thinking, I'm just going to put something on top, I'm not fixing the inside.
Right.
Or just letting your body heal itself. Like it's a 2-year-old. Yeah. If your kid's itchy and rash, unless it's really crippling them, right? Maybe just like practice like breathing with them, praying about it, doing some like nice creams with no steroids, or looking into their diet, or trying to figure out if they're allergic to something. Right. Or there's just so many other things to do. But I don't know. Because of this, I'm so much more cautious about my own son. But if I didn't go through this, I probably would have done the same thing as you, like a lot of people. And blind faith and blind trust in people with white coats. They're still human beings. They still mess up. They still make mistakes, and they still only know what they know.
It's just frustrating that a pediatrician wouldn't say to a young mother, maybe get her food allergy tested. Right. I did take you for regular, like weeds, grasses, and trees, and pollen, and all that, but I never thought or was directed into the food allergy. Mm-hmm. And that would have been,
and it might not be that.
It could have been huge at the time. I don't know.
But, we'll never know. But now we got to move forward. And that was my little childhood story from the words of my mother. So thank you for listening to this episode. Share it with anybody that you think needs this perspective, or you think would find value in it. And we'll continue spreading awareness and doing what we do. And thank you for being my mom and doing a good job. I'm going to now go cry because I have it together. I love you too. You did a very good job. Okay, guys, I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. With your help, we can spread awareness together. So please share the show with anyone you know who may be struggling with a medical condition and using steroids to treat it. And be sure to check out the blog for helpful resources to aid you along your TSW journey at tswjourneytohealing.com.